are
be
live.
in a moment. So.
All right, we're gonna get that link posted.
I will as soon as it comes up. It's still processing. All right, I'll post the link right now.
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So let's get started then. This is the continuing committee's July 2020 Board of Directors meeting. I'm Brian Schaeflein, Director of Operations and Chairman, or Chairperson, sorry. In attendance, we have Maggie Geppert, who is the Executive Officer. We've got Charlie Plain, who is the Director of First Edition and Interim Director of Second Edition. Scott Bowman, Director of Communications, Chris Sonsonby, Director of Organized Play, and Justin Ford, Chief Financial Officer. So first things first, approval of meeting minutes from last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to look them over? Does anyone see anything needs correcting?
I didn't see anything.
I move to approve.
All right, any second?
I'll second.
All right, anyone opposed to approving the meeting minutes? All right, I see a lot of shaking heads, so we'll say that the minutes are approved. On to department reports. Maggie, anything from the executive?
I wrote a diversity statement, which we're discussing later on. I played in 4 tournaments last month and worked on some stuff in the background. That's been my month.
Yep, and we're going to talk about the diversity report later, or the diversity statement later. So, Charlie, have you taken a deep breath for your back-to-back reports?
Yeah, I just finished posting up the links there, confirming that we're live. So I'll start with First Edition. We launched a really cool new program since our last board meeting that I've been alluding to for a while, called Promo Week. The idea came from Seth Clay-Brooks and Jason Robinette, who are some very, very veteran 1E volunteers. They were some of the first 1E volunteers when CC took over 1E. The idea was Seth doesn't really have much time to play anymore, but he loves checking in on the site. But because we don't do big content updates, especially cards, very often, he was only checking, once every 4 or 5 months. So his suggestion was, wouldn't it be cool if I knew there was something new every week? So we came up with the idea of we're going to make a set of, in this case, alternate image promos and release them once a week. So we've been doing that for 2 weeks now. We did Medical Tricorder was the first one, and Vedic Dax went up yesterday, and you're going to get one more next week, and then there'll be a break. And then what? So you get a promo every week that we're not releasing a new expansion. So when I tell you there's a break coming, that's a strong clue that something else is going to be released in that time window. In this case, a TV expansion. But yeah, we took the opportunity to make some really cool, nice high-res versions of some cards that didn't have them, and get some cool alternate images and alternate stories on some verbs that could use them. So a very eclectic set of 18. And if it goes well and the reception is good, on the good side, we'll do it again. In the future, we might do versions of cards that could use, updated wording. We might do some new cards mixed in too with the AIs. Like we did that once earlier in the year with Mr. and Mrs. Troy. Sort of just dropped a new card. So we're always trying things and building on lessons learned. So like Mr. and Mrs. Troy came out of Valentine's Day, and people kind of liked that. Then we had the idea to do the promo a week, and we got that going, and now we can combine them in the future moving forward. So I'm excited about that program. getting off the ground. There are other cool things still in the works for 1E, not the least of which is Project Londo, which is the next expansion, which is almost done with development. What we call green. We call it green because in our software there's a flag from the rules team and a flag from the creative team, and if they're both green, it means the card is bueno, assuming the testers don't find something wrong with it. But it has a story treatment and the rules has approved the text, and I think all but 2 cards in the file are green right now. So the art notes went off to the art team, and the art team's been given their marching orders, and the proofreaders have been given the file to start looking at. So Project Londo will be going from development to production pretty soon. And we'll be following that up with a couple little things that we're testing in there. And then Project Storm will be going up next in the next few weeks, probably before our next board meeting. And that is Christopher Wicker's expansion, Smiley on the Boards. It's focused on the 10-episode story arc that ended Deep Space Nine. So it's a little Deep Space Nine love. Since it's been a while since they've gotten anything. It's not a block set, so it's a single set, kind of like we used to make. Obviously, it's pulling from that story arc, so it won't be any like TOS or Enterprise or Voyager content in it, but it'll be fun. And then we're gonna get into the last of the originally planned blocks, which is the movie sets. Those should be getting started. They are starting design right now. There's some really cool 1E stuff in the works that I can't wait to tell you more about. We just need to get some more things finished. Expect Project Londo fairly soon, relatively speaking. I think since the last meeting, we did officially name our balance team leads. Dan Hammond and Jason Robinette are co-leading that team. We're going to be posting soon, recruiting people to join that team, and then they'll be firing on all cylinders in the next month or so. So yeah, Winnie's in a really good place. Changing hat, I should have had 2 hats so I could literally change hats. But switching to 2nd edition, obviously it's been an eventful period of time since our last board meeting. That's sort of been hashed over a lot on the forums. I don't really want to get into the details of what happened here. It's not really appropriate, and it seems mostly to have been resolved. But that information is available on the forums if you do want to know more, and you can PM me, and I'll happily point you to the resources that are there or go over things. But the short version is Nick Yankovic, who was the director of 2nd edition, resigned. Shark, who was the errata lead, resigned. And Shark was our 2nd choice to take over for Nick in the event that things went south. So absent both of them, I came in to sort of do that job on an administrative level because I have been doing the same job on the 1E side more or less successfully for the last 2 years. So most of the last month was spent for me getting caught up on what was going on the 2E side and reestablishing relationships with the 2E staff. The Department of 2nd Edition has been doing good work, and I want to take a few moments to highlight Shark and Ben Liebtick, Monty42, and apologizes if I messed up your name, Mike Shea, and Amber Van Bremen, who is the rules mistress, and Nathan Miracle is the design director. All the staff members who have been doing a lot of work to keep 2E progressing behind the scenes while Nick was dealing with real life. So I wanted to give them a really big shout out. But my role coming into the department is to simply do the project management and not do long-term vision setting, because I am not qualified to do that as an infrequent 2E player. But in terms of the project management, I have very good news. Project Bruce, which is called All Our Yesterdays, is weeks away from coming out. I mentioned that the 1E promo a week project is going to have one more promo on Friday and then take some weeks off. Well, that is where All Our Yesterdays is coming. So it will be officially announced Friday, April 14th. Production is very nearly done. They just did the last proofreading pass. They saw the images for the first time. They're all pretty happy with the set. We found a couple mistakes, of course. Like somehow a Klingon ship going through 6 months of development and nobody noticing it didn't have a cloaking device. But that's been fixed. That's why we proofread. It's looking awesome. The release foils are being printed this week. And I believe Maggie is going to be very bored in quarantine and spend some time putting those together. So they should be at the warehouse on or before announcement day.
It'll totally be slice and dice time.
Yep.
For the next 2 weeks.
It's 25 new cards. And yes, you heard that right. But it fills 3 whole pages. So I'll let you try to puzzle that one out. It's cool. I'm happy with the set. It's the first in what we're now calling the interaction cycle. I know that name has been controversial for some people, but a lot of the cards in the set, not all of them, but a lot of the cards in the set put it back and forth between players in different ways. It's not just battle, capture, assassination. There's some cool stuff. But yeah, we've got the writing team working on writing articles. We've got designers and volunteers who've written articles. Some really cool stuff coming for you guys, and that'll be announced on the 14th and released on the 28th. Hot on its heels is Project Clark, which has been testing very well. It's a cool, it's the second set in the cycle. It's a DS9 themed set. All Our Yesterdays is Enterprise and TOS themed. Clark is DS9 themed, and it's pretty close to done with development, according to everybody that I've talked to, and that will be moving into production pretty soon. So if you're, my reports are blending a little, but if you're looking at the release calendar, it's going to be Project Bruce, All Our Yesterdays, shortly thereafter followed by Project Londo, which is the 1E set, followed shortly thereafter by Project Clark, which is this 2E DS9 set. And the set behind Project Clark is Project Donar, which is an expansion that's been floating around for a couple of years. It's Christmas themed. Is going to testing here very soon, hopefully to come out right around the winter holidays. Might miss Christmas a little bit, but after the year that we've had, who wouldn't mind an extended Christmas season? And then Project Clark was originally 54 cards, and Nick split it into 2. So it's now Project Clark, which is DS9, and Project Connor, which is TNG focused, and that will be on deck after Donar in 2021. And then beyond that is Project Diana, which is the 4th set in the cycle, which is Voyager themed. Those are all the projects that are ongoing right now. Things are moving pretty well. I've made sure that the department heads know that I'm here to help and provide resources. We've fixed a few problems. We've picked up some playtesters. I want to also, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I want to give a shout out to Ross Bertel, faithful reader, who's been helpful behind the scenes, getting things, keeping things going. But all of the director level work is being handled by me, and the vast majority of the 2E development work, design development, maintenance work is being done by the staff. I'm just coordinating projects. So I'm optimistic and hopeful about where 2E is and where it's going.
To Jonathan Engel, Triumph, and the creative team.
Oh yeah.
All our yesterdays looks great, guys. great image choices.
My apologies there for not mentioning him as one of the department heads. The team is doing the teams are doing fantastic work. I'm lucky in that I was able to come in and sort of just talk to people and get things moving again. There were really big four pillars that I'm trying to implement. It's getting production moving, improving staff morale, because after a tough year or so, that was kind of low. Enabling the team leaders and the volunteers to work on to have agency and to feel like that they're empowered to do things. And then I want to build some framework elements that have fallen into disrepair, so that whomever becomes the next director has that foundation of support to build on. One last thing I didn't mention, right now on the forums, we're doing a pick your promo process where I'm having the community decide what the next set of tournament promos is going to be. We did a vote on what card types would be in it, and right now we're voting on it's 1 dilemma, 1 event, 2 missions, 2 personnel, and 3 ships. And right now people nominated a bunch of cards, and now they're voting on which ones. There were so many submissions, and our polling software only supports 10, that I'm doing heats. So you can go and vote in 2 heats of dilemmas, 2 heats of events, 2 heats of missions, 4 heats of personnel, and 4 heats of ships. And then those polls end Monday. And when those polls are done, there will be a final poll to determine which cards go into those slots. And then we will take submissions on ideas for alternate stories. And then we're going to hand all that to the creative team and let them run with it. And then that will be the next set of tournament promos, series 21, I believe, which should debut in January. So one of the big things I want to see happening between now and the selection of the next director is just people talking about TUI. So there's been some good discussions on the forums. I'd like to see those continuing. I kind of got spammed with voting threads this week, but we'll be back to discussion threads soon. And we've got TUI volunteers writing a weekly article. So shout out to our authors there. I've had Mike Shea and Maggie write articles so far, and there are more coming in the future. So TUI, I'm very I'm happy with where TUI is, and I'm hoping that I can hand the reins off to the next director with a nice, strong, stable foundation and a bunch of work done they don't have to stress about, so they can focus on doing the longer term planning that is going to be needed here pretty soon, and vision setting. I know I talked a lot, I apologize, but TUI is in a pretty good spot in spite of recent, perceptions and drama. The staff is working very, very hard, and there's some really cool things coming. So that's all I've got for 1E and 2E.
All right. Go ahead and take a breath. You may not have to speak for at least a few more seconds. Scott, how's Department of Communications going? You're brand new, so.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest thing in my report is, hi everyone, I'm Scott Baltman. I'm the new Director of Communications. Most of you know me as Neelix on the boards, and somewhat over on the dojo. I guess the big thing I've been doing is getting acclimated to my new position, finding out what exactly all of the processes involved are. I have been able to talk to Darksaber and OK Coyote, Daniel and Austin, about doing stuff as they are my direct reports. Not as much as I'd like to, but as you probably all gathered from Charlie's report and just the world in general today. Everything's pretty crazy out there, but people are trying to prioritize what they have to do for the continuing committee in a healthy way. And also, I was able to talk to Robin, who is our chief ambassador, about some ideas to maybe provide rewards for ambassadors when they do things like run demos and introduce new players to the game in the form of possibly some kind of virtual swag. We haven't really nailed down what we want to do, but maybe a particular forum badge that helps them to be able to show people, hey, not only am I an ambassador, but I've been doing XYZ as a lot of my ambassador duties, so like I've demoed for 25 people, or I've gotten 2 new players that actually competed in an organized play event. And as a result of doing those activities, said ambassador would have a certain forum badge or something like that they could display. Robin's really gung-ho about being the chief ambassador. He's pretty new to that position as well. But he and I have spoken many times over the past few months about things we want to do to promote both of or all 3 of the games that we all make and love to play. And I look forward to working with him and all the rest of the folks to get those messages out there. Also, as most of you know, I'm in charge of the 2E director search team. Having been an applicant for that position in the past, most of you know that I have a lot of strong feelings about that version of the game. It is my favorite version of the games that we play and support. I love first edition. Obviously, if 1E hadn't been such a big deal, we wouldn't have second edition. But for me and a lot of my players, people enjoy the second edition a little bit more. So it's near and dear to my heart, and I'm very excited that we finally do have a 7-person team to search for the new 2E director, for purposes of the fact that we don't want to have any tie votes when it comes to making decisions. For the first couple of weeks there, we were stuck at 6 members, and I was reaching out to lots of people. But I was able to get the 7th person. I will write up an article very soon to post about who all is on the search team this time, and then also the process for people to apply to be 2E director. We want to try to move quickly but deliberately so that we can get a new second edition director in place that I am confident will be able to shepherd the game in a smooth and prosperous way for a long time to come. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. Oh, I have signed up to write 2 articles for the upcoming preview cards for all our yesterdays. So I'm looking forward to writing some about Star Trek again, which I haven't had time to do for a while, but glad that I get to now. And I guess that's about it.
Okay. I guess we'll also be able to skip over a later agenda item on the search, because I think you just summed it all up.
Oh yeah. I guess I was jumping the gun. Well, anyway, but yeah, I consider that sort of part of my department duties at the moment, anyway. So there you have it. Oh, and as Maggie said, I did get to play in 2 tournaments this month. A first edition one, the Warp Speed deal, and on Lackey, and also played in 2E Nationals, in which case I was doing great until Maggie decided to derail my progress.
Now you guys are stealing my thunder, my organized play update.
There is a question in the chat for you, Scott. Monty42 would like to know, why do you think so many people turned down being on the search committee?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question, Ben. The answer, I believe, is a lot of them. Well, several of the people that I asked had previously been involved in the search team, and they just didn't want to do it again, which I can completely understand. And several other people, and I'm talking like north of a dozen people here, told me that they didn't want to get involved in the drama. As we all know, the last month, our committee has had quite a bit of drama. And of course, during the previous search for a 2E director, there was quite a bit of conflict and confrontation going on. So I don't blame people at all. When I announced the search team people that did accept, I'm sure there's going to be people that are upset. We do, however, have members from multiple nations and lots of different time zones. And you probably will have people that complain a bit that I got a couple of my friends to be on the search team, and that is not because those are the first people I asked. It's because they're the people that I could plead, beg, cajole, and in some cases promise to help out later on if they would actually join the team. There may have been some promise of homemade pizza and/or barbecue involved to get a couple of people from here in the Southeast to join in the search team. So yeah, I didn't want to have it be me and 2 or 3 of my friends plus a few other folks, but those are the people that accepted the request. So yeah. But as Ben knows, because I've talked to him about various things. I've been very open with everyone about my process for forming the search team, because as the director of communications, my whole thing is we got to talk, right? So as Ben knows, I've reached out to many players in Europe throughout various nations, and I'm proud to say that we do have some European representation on the search team.
There's one more question from YouTube chat, Nerdopolis Prime. How many candidates do you think you're looking at? Have you started accepting candidates yet?
We have not. I have not put up anything to ask for applicants yet, because I wanted to write up an article doing that and let the search team look over the article with me. I'll probably do that later today, and then hopefully get it posted up this coming week. And so, but the scuttlebutt is, and Nerdo knows this because he and I've talked about it before, but I'm happy he brought it up in the public chat. The scuttlebutt is we may only have 1, possibly 2 applicants. But hey, we could be surprised. After we put out that call for applicants, there may be people that want to apply that just haven't said anything yet, or have never applied in the past. And so we could be pleasantly surprised and have several good applicants. But right now, as you know, Nerdo, there may only be 1, but possibly 2. I don't know.
I guess I would just add on, you never know. Charlie and I did the 1E Rules Master search, and we had 2 or 3 people that were not active on the forums at all and came out of the woodwork. So you never know.
Yeah, totally. We could be pleasantly surprised and have quite a field of applicants.
I just had one.
Yeah.
I had one other suggestion just for Scott while we've been talking. You'd mentioned that you might want to do something on the forums for a virtual thing for ambassadors. And we do already have a series of achievements, Pryler, Vedic, Kai, Emissary, for new players. I wonder if there's a way we could just have our programmer people maybe do turn some of them into badges, because that's like a series of 4, 1 player, I think it's 3 players, 5 players, and 10 players.
Yes,
Maybe
absolutely.
Escalated little forum badge.
Yeah. Robin, when Robin and I talked about that, I was like, some low hanging fruit here might be just to adapt to have badges from those ambassador related or those tournament director related achievements. And I think that'd be great. And it wouldn't take much effort on the programming team part. So hopefully. Yes. Thanks for exposing our possible shortcut, Chris.
I do that. I think about things. I'm an idea man. Sometimes they stick. Most of the times they don't.
But yes, even though that would be somewhat low-hanging fruit, I think people would think it was cool.
I know. I think it'd be cool if I had an emissary forum badge for running 10 tournaments with new players. That'd be cool to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Assuming there's nothing else on the questions for the search. Charlie, did you see anything else? I don't see any. Okay. So we'll go on to Department of Operations, which is me. On the programming team, we've gotten some progress on upgrading the site. I set up 3 test servers that we've been using to test different changes, which is, I think, accelerating our work quite a bit, because we get to see what happens if we do it on a server that matches, what we have now, what we would be using if we were upgrading, just experimental stuff. I think Right now I'm thinking that the actual upgrade to the servers will happen in September, possibly the first weekend there in September. Might push it a week or two, but it's coming very soon. I think we're very close now. And I'll make an announcement, write an article and everything, and make sure everyone's aware, because when we do it, the site will end up being down for hours as we do backups, as we do the upgrades. But I don't have a date for that yet. I just know it's definitely within the next 2 months. I don't know exactly what day though. It is entirely possible that it will happen before our next meeting, but it's unlikely, depending on how the calendar works out for our next scheduled meeting. But either way, I will write up an article with plenty of advance notice so that people know that it is coming and don't get worried too much. What else? Arts has been working on, obviously, the final touches of the second edition set, as Charlie mentioned. Also doing the nice promo weeks for first edition. What else with Promenade? We've got some foil paper stuff we have to talk about, and that's going to help out with the Promenade stuff. I don't think I have any other updates for ops. So let's Chris, organize play.
Sure. We've had a couple of tournaments that happened in person in July. We had German Nationals that had 4 players. We had a sealed event and a wedding, as some of you know, in Las Vegas. Daniel Madison had a sealed event. And then in Florida, Sean O'Reilly hosted an event. But obviously, given that we're still living in the COVID world, a lot of our events are happening online. Right now, we are just nearing the finish line of the US Nationals, which, if my memory serves, one of our panel is in the final. She is against 15 other guys and playing MVB in the title for the second edition. And
Dude, we dropped into some alternate universe because I have no idea how that happened.
Hey, don't say that. You still got one game to go. Well, and you got a heck of a competitor you're fighting. So, and then on the 1E side, we have John Carter, kind of representing the old guard, is playing Flying Hawaiian Matthew. Gosh, I can't remember his last name. But he's actually, if I recall correctly, he's not a Hawaiian at all. He's living there with his wife and maybe he is, and his wife is from Minnesota. I played him one time. We talked about going out to dinner when he came home for Christmas. It never happened, but anyway, total sidebar. For organized play, obviously, we're going on with the Subspace series right now. These 2 events were the kickoffs. Maggie's been hosting Tuesday Night Tribbles for all of us degenerates who want to have a drink and kind of unwind, and that's been really fun too. If you haven't played in anything online, I encourage you at least to jump into Tribbles. We've had some players who are not online at all who played in the Tribbles Nationals. Real quick 10-minute demo, and we can get you figured out how to run Tribbles online in Lackey. And obviously the Tuesday Night Tribbles are just kind of a real fun get together of, regulars include Michael Van Bremen, myself, Maggie, Dan Hammond, some other guys, Kevin Yeager. It's just a good time. The best thing we can do right now, I think, is to keep playing. Playing online is the easiest avenue for all of us. And I would just continue to encourage people to keep playing, either that's in person, kitchen table games, tournaments, or online. I think we're offering a ton of different options for online play coming up. There's an open constructed, an academy constructed. There's obviously the dojo running if you just want to run a standard constructed, and Tribbles, first edition, second edition, whatever you feel like playing. Odds are good you could find an online tournament here in August for whatever you need to scratch your itch. And look forward to additional tournaments in the Subspace series getting scheduled. We're hoping to do either an ID draft, maybe in September, October. Some of those other one-off events, Rainbow Draft, I think, is scheduled too for first edition. So again, just encourage people to play however they feel comfortable to play. And if your local group is not playing, please jump online. Scott, we just recruited him. He's been playing online and doing well in both of those tournaments. And I think everybody, except for Justin, who I know is just working too much, has been playing online this month and last month. So, Justin, you got to get in the ring. I'll throw you into a triple threat match or something, and we'll all play all at one time. So, just again, I hope everybody will keep playing, and that's my organized play report for right now.
Hey Chris, can I plug my how to play in Lackeys videos?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you have not been playing with Lackey because you're a little overwhelmed by how the program works, I demoed it for both first edition and second edition with a relatively new guy, Bionic Man 05. So thank you, Bionic Man 05, for being my test subject on that demo guy. So those are both up on the Continuing Committee YouTube channel. Just search for those. Those two videos assume that you have been able to download and install Lackey, because I do not feel comfortable guiding people through that process because I don't know how I managed it. I literally don't remember how I managed to get it working. And also that you have a passing familiarity with the game. It's not a how to play, it's how to play with Lackey. So check those out if you've been interested in playing online but you haven't been sure about how to do it. They're both about a half hour long.
Perfect. Thanks, Maggie. I don't see any questions in the chat rooms. Anybody else see anything for me?
No.
Okay.
Justin, finance?
Yes. So yes, it's been an interesting it's been an interesting time during this pandemic. Our work production is not slowing down, and so it's made things a little challenging, but getting things done. Stuff is caught up finally. Apologies to our good friend Jeremy, leaving him hanging. That he should be all taken care of. And I did just found an email buried from Dan to get some shipping supplies. So we'll get those shipping supplies ordered and sent to him this weekend. So he'll have them middle of next week in preparation for the new set coming out and promenade activity going up. We did restock on the foil paper to Jeremy, so he's got foil paper stocked, ready to go. So we're ready for the next round of promos to be printed. And there was some rainbow foil paper that we were able to purchase, and so we were able to get that. We'll have that in stock, which we'll talk about later.
You may as well talk about it now because we've already done the director of second edition search update, so it just goes right into that.
Oh, well, actually, before we jump off of that topic, I got a question submitted from the chat. There is one European member of the search team. Someone asked how many European members are on the team. So yes, we did get one person over across the pond to actually agree. So thank you very much. I think I'll wait until I write the article to name all of the people that are on the search team, just to make sure that I get everything squared away. Unless somebody is just dying to know who they are right now. But yeah.
So we did have another question from Monopolis Prime on the search for the second edition director. He asks, with the clashes between Euros and Americans, do you think Americans will apply or might not apply, I guess he's asking, because they think a Euro will automatically be picked? And how tough will it be for the Euro to prove himself to the Americans who think like that? He thinks that, a lot of people are thinking that it'll be a purely political decision rather than a democratic procedure.
Well, I mean, obviously, I can't speak for how players will want to be, proven to that that person is doing a good job. For me, I think going ahead and, if a European candidate is chosen, just going ahead and making sure the game progresses well and is doing things stably and has growth, that proves that they're doing a good job. As far as dissuading or forcing away applicants based on nationalities. I don't think anybody who cares enough to actually want to put this much time into doing Star Trek cards is going to be put off by some sort of perception of anti-American or anti-European bias or anti-anything bias. If you want to be 2E director, apply. There is no particular set criteria in our selection, our search team goals for a certain nationality or a certain country of origin or a certain anything. I guess the only thing we really want is to make sure you're a fan and that you have passion and drive and ability to handle a project of this nature for a hobby that you're passionate about.
Okay. I haven't seen anything else. So foil paper, some good news on that apparently, Justin.
Yeah, so I just checked the link again, and they are actually sold out. So that it was just 40 sheets is all that they had, and I did buy it all. It was about $100, so wasn't bad. So that's what is it, 40 times 8 or 40 times 9? It's 360 promos. So how do we want to do? What do we want to earmark that for? Worlds promos each year to run that out, or Worlds and Continentals?
Charlie, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
My suggestion is we save that for borderless promos only, because we can easily do Worlds and Continentals on the regular paper. It's unfortunate, but if there's only 40 sheets, let's use them for borderless promos, because all the borderless promos we've printed have been printed on that. Let's keep it that way. You know, those are not common promos. They're ultra uncommon to rare. So we're not going to go through that paper very quickly. But yeah, my suggestion would be let's reserve that paper for borderless promos only and go back to the easily obtainable regular paper for everything else.
I would agree with that too, because for Worlds Continentals, you potentially need 8, right? Or a set number of them. And if you run out of borderless, you could just, that doesn't have to have any specific number. You could print 5 borderless promos and they go out at different stages and one-offs. So yeah, I think I agree with that, Charlie. That makes a lot more sense to me. Save it for the rare stuff.
This may be the last paper we ever get of this sort, right?
As far as we know, this is the last of it. The guy who owns this company is maddeningly difficult to get a hold of. And the fact that I got hey, heads up, we're putting this for sale on this date was remarkable. So my guess is we've bought all that they have made. I have no idea if they'll ever make some again. And I'm more than willing to continue talking to the guy to see if, we can, because at one point he was like, we have a roll and we can make it, but it was too much money. And I kept asking him if we could do installments or whatever. I'm more willing to keep chasing that lead, but I would assume that these 40 sheets that we just ordered are all we're ever getting. So
If you get more, just send me the link and look at the price, and if it works, we'll buy it.
Okay, I think that's everything on there.
Is there anyone opposed to the idea? No, of saving for borderless promo?
Nope, it's going to be a super rare thing to have, so we might as well use it for, the super rare variants that we make. Hey Maggie, you still with us? All right, because we're over on the diversity statement stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So there was a bit more discussion in the past month about the diversity statement. We had a few people chime in on what sort of things they're looking for. If they want one of those for the continuing committee, that's important to them. And I came up with something pretty short and sweet and got a couple of edits to it. And so I was actually pretty happy with it. And the people who were interested in that and seemed to need or want that sort of thing, gave it a thumbs up, so I can read it for everybody if you want. Hopefully this doesn't. All right, so here we are. In the spirit of infinite diversity in infinite combinations, The continuing committee welcomes people of all backgrounds to our community. Boom, done. So,
And I like
I
that.
would, yeah, I think it's short and sweet. I just like I just like lists, because then you can say, aha, well, we're leaving that person, that group out. And yeah, so that's, so I think the best thing to do with that, I was initially thinking to putting it somewhere in the bylaws, but I think it's better just to have it, somewhere on, sort of prominent and visible on the site. Maybe like put it in the FAQ, in the new player, where it's, because that's where it says new players beam in here, so that would be a place for it. And then there was a suggestion of putting it, somewhere at the bottom of each of the pages.
I would say the
Down.
footer would also be a very good place, just so that it's everywhere.
Right. So I would propose that that's where we should put it.
I think
So
we
I
can make
can
that
add-
happen.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're making a motion, I would second that. That seems like the best place for it.
So yeah, if we want to, so we have a motion to adopt this diversity statement. Anyone want to second it?
Sure, call that my second.
All right. Do we want to go down the line voting? Justin, how do you vote on adopting this diversity statement? I think you were cut out. I didn't hear a word from you.
It's good.
Okay. Scott, how about you? Would you like to adopt this?
Aye.
Charlie?
100%. I vote yeah.
I also vote yes for it. Chris, I assume since you seconded, you approve. He nods yes. And Maggie, since I think it would be your motion, she nods yes. All right. So we are officially adopting that diversity statement.
Where are we putting it?
I am going to try to get it into the footer first off. We'll probably add it into the FAQ.
Oh, the
Put
footer.
in the bylaws too, probably.
Basically, the footer would be show up on every page of the website. Right now, I think we have a copyright statement and possibly the terms of use on the footer. We could add it also into the terms of use if we wanted, but I think having it in the footer just shows everywhere anyway. We'll get that added.
Cool.
Someone else asked something. Sorry.
Suggested also putting it in the bylaws, so it doesn't have to be, but it should be easily found for people who want to find it.
Yeah, I think putting it in the footer is going to be more easily found than putting it in the bylaws.
We have another question in the chat. I know this is derailing this current topic from Ben Levick. How would we handle the situation if the incoming 2E director wants to appoint John Corbett to leading a position on the 2E staff?
John Corbett is not a member in good standing. He has been banned from the forums entirely, so he cannot work for second edition.
That basically would be my answer too. He's no longer allowed to post on the forums at all. So I don't see how he could be a helpful member of the Department of Second Edition.
Wouldn't practically, though, the new director of second edition bring that to the board and let the discussion take place at that time? Like, is there?
Yep, we could all vote to.
I mean, I would like to think that if any director wanted to hire somebody, that they could always bring it up and find out what the situation is. Like, there's no like blanket rule of you can't ever do this. It's all conversations, right?
Yes, and if that were the case, if the new director brought a motion to the board, we could all discuss it and vote to, what would be the term, re-enable or
Yeah. I guess I would just step in and say, let's not derail this conversation. That cart's way before the horse right now. Scott's working on a search committee. We will address it once we have a search committee in place. We have a new director in place. This is months down the line. There's no point in having that conversation right now.
But it does segue into amending the bylaws. This is something I've been pushing for on the forum to get discussion going, and any objections, any wrinkles ironed out. Essentially, it would be updating the bylaws to reflect what we actually do, rather than a lot of template language that doesn't apply to us. Very, very big reason for it was the Department of Second Edition. When the director was unavailable, we didn't have any systems in place to provide, someone else to take the leadership role. We would have to actually vote to remove a board member and then vote to approve a new one, and so that was part of why we initiated, or part of why I initiated amending the bylaws. And they've been up for a few months now. Discussion seems to have petered out, and I would like to motion to approve them, but as the chair, I won't. I would ask if anyone else would like to motion to approve the amendments or discuss them further.
I think I'm good on the discussion. I would motion to approve them.
Would
I have
anyone...
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question. So I know that technically having co-leads of a department isn't supported by the bylaws. How would you suggest? But obviously, I have a situation where I have two people leading a team. How do you suggest I implement that under the structure of the new bylaws? Because I don't know that the situation will ever repeat itself, but across 7 departments with lots of different people, I could see it happening. So is there a way to deal with that situation officially?
So essentially, it's a question of how do you make co-leads work, right? Co-leads of a committee or a team or something, right?
Yeah.
The short answer is that sort of thing doesn't work in an organization that uses Robert's Rules of Order. There is no such thing as co-equal chairs of a committee. Such a thing is basically another committee on top of a committee. And if you have a committee of 2 people, they may always agree and you never have an issue with that, but there's a very high likelihood that one of them will want one thing and the other will not. And so you're deadlocked in a leadership committee that at that point, what happens? I don't think there is a structural way, and I'm almost entirely certain that like Robert's rules strongly suggest you not do that sort of thing, because it is messy. But if you wanted to do that, you could institute another committee on top of whatever committee you're thinking of and have yourself as the 3rd member, in which case you would break any ties that the other 2 co-leads would have happen in their job. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just saying that is the sort of structure that would have to be in place. I know that's a complicated answer for what should be a very simple thing. You have 2 people who are in charge, make it work, but that's just kind of how it works in the committee structure.
Okay, I understand that, but that's dumb. we're a game company doing this for fun. We're not like, I have a problem with that. Like, I understand, and we're doing the best that we can here. You know, the whole nonprofit thing came about because it's what the community wanted. It's what people wanted. And being a nonprofit comes with requirements, legal requirements to have bylaws and all of that stuff. But like, it bothers me that the thing that's best for the game, as determined by a sitting director, can't happen because of those rules. You know, it was.
Oh, Charlie, you got muted. Charlie, you got muted.
Sorry. Like, one of the reasons we're making these changes is because I wanted to change the errata team to the balance team, and we figured out that I couldn't even do that. So now it's like, I made a decision that I feel was in the best interest of the game, but that decision is technically illegal by our own rules. So my two options are like, make another committee to lead a committee, which is just more BS, or I guess I could just officially name one of the two the actual lead, but then tell them that they're
in practice, it would almost never matter that there was a committee on top of that committee. So you could do that and it would be almost entirely invisible. You wouldn't even, it's not like that committee has to do something to run this other committee. They would just run their business. And if it ever occurred that they disagreed, it would be like they have to come to you as the boss and you would decide. That is basically what would happen. It's just, there's a structural layer of framework in there to say this is why it happens. So those co-leads would still be co-leading the committee. They would just be, it would just be because they are a member of this higher level committee, I suppose. There's no structural difference in what you're trying to do, except for the fact that by our bylaws, you would be the tie-breaking vote on the leadership of whatever that decision was. Which in practice, I'm guessing you would have been anyway.
Well, that's what it should, like, the bylaws should not impede day-to-day operation. And yeah, any commit, I think we do have the language in the bylaws, any committee tie-breaking votes on any subcommittee in each department is broken by the director, is the tie-breaking vote. So if Dan and Robin were deadlocked on an errata or a balance change, you know, Charlie would step in, have the discussion, and, you know, they would come, you know, make a decision based on that. And so that's what it should be. Like, if you want to have two people, like if TUI wants to do the same thing, TUI should not be limited to have one singular lead. Like, especially you have one American and one European co-leading TUI errata, for example, to bridge the divide. And then, you know, your director would be the one that would be any tie-breaking votes. But
yeah, if the bylaws didn't include procedure for breaking ties, then the bylaws would be impeding progress for the organization. The fact that they have procedure for breaking ties makes them not impeding the progress. So yeah, Charlie, I think you can accomplish what you want to do by doing what Brian just laid out. You can have those guys be co-leads, but if they're ever tied, whoever is director gets to cast a tie-breaking vote, kind of like, you know, vice president and the Senate or whatever.
And I'm trying to, I guess, just get the point across that it doesn't change what you want to do. It just makes it so that there's language so that in the event there is a tie, you know, this is a committee and you get to break the tie. I guess that's, and it's like, you know, there's, so essentially the chair of the balance team would be, or the chair of the balance committee would be this other committee, which is these two guys. So they're essentially co-chairs of that committee. It's just a very wordy framework to make that happen.
I think I agree with Charlie. Like, there's no need to create this ghost committee at the top just to satisfy the current structure of the bylaws. We just need to get the the additions made to where, you know, you don't need this committee of a committee of a committee, because we're not I mean, we're doing this for fun. Yes, we're a nonprofit organization, but we shouldn't need 6 committees to, you know, decide something. And so I think that's what I think Charlie was getting at, if I understood correctly.
Yo, dog, we heard you like committees, so we put a committee on top of your committee.
And then that committee reports to the leadership committee. So good job. And yeah, it's an extra layer legally, but in practice, it is invisible unless something goes wrong, in which case there is a procedure for making it visible, I guess. And I know that we don't like having to add the language. It's just that that's just the way it works with the committee structure that we have.
My point is, I don't think we need this ghost committee. I think we can write the bylaws to a point where we don't need to have a committee at the top of the balancing committee. So we have 2 committees doing, you know, I don't think we need it. I don't think we do. I think the language can be written in a way that, like Scott said, clear procedures. If there is issues with the 2 co-leads, here is how you handle it. You know, the director steps in to facilitate, kind of like how Maggie is the one who's responsible for facilitating disputes between the directors. So,
I mean, I can come up with ways around this too. Like I can say, on even numbered days, Dan is the balance team lead, and on odd numbered days, Jason is the balance team lead, or Dan does the paperwork. But I mean, there are ways around it. But I guess my point is, we don't want to corporate ourselves to making it hard to do our job, make it hard to do our mission. But I didn't mean to derail this into this huge conversation.
It's exactly what we're supposed to do, discuss it. In the end, if we rewrote that part to enable co-leads, and the language was, you know, you can have more than one chair of a committee, but the director will be the tiebreaker of the chairs in the committee, the language will end up looking almost exactly the same as if you just said there's a committee on top of the committee, because of the fact that you're the tie-breaking guy, casting a vote essentially in a committee. You're rewriting something to say the same thing in the end because you don't like the idea of a committee.
It's fine. I just don't want. This isn't even about me. I just don't want directors' hands tied to doing things that make sense to make this organization and the games succeed. So whatever solution we can come up with.
Well, if I understand the new wording for that part, it basically says directors can set up their departments however they want. Go. I mean, that was my read. Now, I'm probably oversimplifying things, but that was more or less my reading of the new wording for how the directors are responsible for setting up their own departments. But I could be wrong with that.
I've tried reading them about 30 times, and I get 4 sections in, and my head hurts so much that I can't. I can't wrap my head around it. So I trust you to enable the directors to do their jobs.
If we're not comfortable with it, then we can postpone it and try to rewrite it. I'm fine with that. I only brought it up into this meeting's agenda because discussion had petered out. So I'm fine with, again, bringing it back out, having more discussion, trying to rewrite that section if we need to.
I think it's pretty clear as it is. I agree with Maggie. The way that I'm reading it, directors are given a lot of leeway, as well they should be. I mean, you know, becoming a director of a department is in some ways a pretty Herculean task over here. So I feel like if you've passed all the rigorous, trials to get into that position, and you know that you have a better vision for how the department should be run, I don't want the bylaws to get in the way of letting the new, let's just say, for example, director of second edition set up and run the system the way that we all know that he or she could do so to the best to accomplish our mission. I mean, yeah, I think we, and the fact that discussion had petered out means I feel people had said their piece. People had said what they wanted to say.
I would
I mean-
also contend, we don't have to have a unanimous vote. Charlie, if you don't feel comfortable with it, by all means, just vote nay, or we can table it. I'm fine either way, but
I mean,
either way.
I don't mind tabling this. Like I will be happy to make the motion myself, Charlie, since you're not comfortable. I just wanted to say that this is why I brought it forward, because there hadn't been any discussion any longer.
and this is a
Okay,
major
I
change.
move to table this discussion.
Agree.
All right.
All right, moving on.
Sorry, I cut Justin off. I didn't mean to. Go ahead, Justin.
This is a big change. That definitely, yeah. This is great, and so yeah, tabling this for another month. We can revisit it, keep it live in the forums, get continuing more people involved. Brian, looks like Brian's going to probably be is an avid vocal proponent to the bylaws, so he'll probably post, and so yeah, getting more opinion definitely. So yeah, great table. Move on.
All right. So the last part is public comment period. So I'm going to invite Sandy Barnabas, who wanted to talk about the direction of second edition. Sorry. Let me send Sandy the meeting link.
I'm going to take 60 seconds to step away. I'll be right back.
Hello, Sandy.
There we go.
Yep, we see you.
Can you guys hear me as well?
Yep.
Yeah,
so
thanks for...
You asked, yep, nope, sorry, go ahead. You asked to talk on the direction of second edition. So floor is yours.
Yeah, so this is mostly, I think, with the director search going on right now, with like an interim director right now, I guess, where does, in terms of selection criteria, and this is mostly a question for Scott and the team that he's leading, what are the dimensions that you're looking to evaluate potential applicants on? And how do you see that as fitting into where the CC plans to grow second edition, or plans to like goals for second edition? Like, are there these goals? Like, is there a broader strategic vision, or are you trying to find a director that will provide that?
Yeah, it's mostly that second part you just said. We are looking at, obviously we're looking for people, like I said earlier in the call here, that are passionate about the game, that have experience with handling large scale projects like this, and ones that want to help the game grow, not just stabilize and keep it on life support, but want the game to continue to be a place where Star Trek fans and card game fans can continue to gather and play and feel like that they're really getting a lot of bang for their hobby time, if you will, if not hobby dollar in this case. And as far as a vision for what we want second edition to do, other than those very broad terms of, let's prosper, we're Star Trek fans. We want the game to live long and prosper, right? Now, for the specifics, like we just had in our discussion about bylaws for what directors can do, I am hoping, and my team is hoping, that we will find someone who has a vision. They come to us and say, I love second edition Star Trek. I love, working with the committee. I love the card games. I love hanging out with my friends. And here's what I think needs to happen in order for the game to not just survive, but thrive, right? So, I'm not going to start the search team as a group saying, well, here's what needs to happen in second edition. Let's go find the person that will do these things. Because then we're kind of hamstringing whoever it is that's going to be chosen as second edition director. If we have a lot of preconceived notions about, we want this process to happen, we want this process to happen, that's not going to let whoever our good candidate is, whoever our best candidate is, that's not going to let them fulfill their best destiny. If we sit there and tell them, here's what is going to have to happen. Plus, I don't have time to do that and be director of communications. Come on, Sandy, you know how this works.
Actually, that's another question that I have that I'll come back to. But digging down a little bit, would you say that? And I know that you're obviously new to this process as well. So this is really directed at anyone who's on the CC or has been on the CC for a while. Would you say that historically that this has been the goal of creating a director of second edition position? Like, is it to grow the game, or is it to like you said, keep the game stable? Because
I'll let somebody who historically worked on it answer in just a second. But for me, it's always been a goal is to make sure the game grows. I mean, if you're not growing, you're dying in some respects, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just wondering if there are metrics that are used to determine what constitutes growth, and if there's a performance evaluation of a director based on how much the game has grown, or has that ever been done? I'm coming back to the game after 15 years, so I'm trying to figure out what the status quo is.
Yeah, I'll let Maggie talk a little bit about that because I know she helped search previously.
Well, I mean, the way that the second edition director of second edition position is set up now is different from what it was historically. I mean, when we were when the search happened for Ross, I won't say we because I wasn't on that search. At that time, the structure of the continuing committee was still Charlie was chair. Charlie was providing the vision for the entire organization, and the brand manager position, as it was called at that time, was a bit more functional than visionary. So things are a little bit different now than they have been historically. Also, in terms of evaluating our directors, we've never put together like sets of metrics before, things that we'd like to achieve. Historically speaking, sadly, we can basically say that membership and participation in the game goes down more or less year over year. As people move away from the game, and we don't have presence in gaming stores, and we don't have a marketing budget or things like that. So participation historically and sadly has gone down year over year.
I would like to counter that. That is not the case.
No, we've never.
2 years.
Oh, okay. It hasn't for the last 2 years? That's
Sandy,
good.
to answer your question, from an organized play perspective, we look at it very much over player participation, right? And when I took over the position, we
tournaments?
We dropped the tournament hold period from 7 days down to 24 hours. We dropped the sanction level from 4 players down to 3. And over the last 2 years, our players' levels, it may not be the same people, but I mean, looking at it aggregate from a year to year to year perspective, first edition was way down, then went way up, and now it's kind of holding steady. Second edition was way up, kind of went down, and has now been roughly holding steady over the last 2 years. So, I mean, obviously 2020 is going to be a totally different year than any other year. You're not really able to compare apples to apples going forward. But for right now, that metric has been roughly what we were hoping to have happen. We at least want to maintain, if not grow.
Sure. So the other question is kind of related more to the various interactions of functions here. Do you feel that the director of second edition, let's say, do you feel that they have the autonomy to grow the game? Like, I feel like the levers that person has compared to, let's say, Scott in communication or organized play, like, which of those levers do you think actually matters to grow the game? Is it releasing new sets? Like, do you have any, I mean, you've said the player base, like you've tracked the growth and decline of organized play. Is that due to kind of increased evangelism? Is it due to exciting cards? Like, do you have any kind of insight into that?
think it's a combination of a lot of factors. We obviously, new content matters. People get tired of playing the same old decks. New tournament formats matter. Promos matter. Prizes. I mean, at the end of the day, we've lost players because of distribution of prizes. They're waiting for a prize 2 months after they get it. A lot of reasons why people could leave. A lot of reasons people could come back to the game. You know, our social media team, Scott, and with Austin and Dan Madison, big thing is outreach. You got to use every avenue of social media that you can. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's ambassadors and TDs running tournaments, putting in the work, being on the ground, traveling around and playing with people. And I think, honestly, our new hire, Robin, is going to be a very exciting chief ambassador. He has the ability to travel.
Is that Robin in Buffalo?
Robin in Buffalo, yes. He's now
okay.
the chief ambassador. He has the ability to travel, the want and drive to travel. And he's already told me privately that he plans to go to every player base and talk to people face to face. And I think that's just a great goal, even if he can't necessarily do it this year. That to me is nothing we've ever had before as an ambassador, and let alone a chief ambassador.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
To answer one more piece of that first question, Sandy, yes, there is a period of review, which I think you know.
I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. Yes. So each member of the committee goes through a period of review at the end of each calendar year to talk about, you know, hey, and the public comments, you know, hey, how did you do?
Okay, I see. So like an evaluation period.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The question I had, like, kind of circling back, and I agree with everything Chris said about, you know, evangelism being the key thing. But if the goal is for whoever's in the director position to grow second edition, and the primary way to do that is not necessarily through just releasing cards, but actually evangelizing in person, doesn't that seem like a mismatch in terms of how much influence they're able to actually have?
I guess I wouldn't phrase that as necessarily one of their goals. That to me is more on my job, I think, and the ambassador who reports to Scott. I was just trying to answer your question.
No, I mean, Scott listed as the kind of thing they want second edition to grow, and that would be, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Like, what then is the primary goal of the director, Tui?
Well, I mean, we all work together, and that's the part of having this board of directors, is we have skills in areas, we complement each other, and we work together for the good of all three games. So, you know, in terms of what does the second edition director do? They have a vision for the game. Where is this game going? How do we get people excited about it? You know, getting people excited about the game helps to grow the game.
Yeah, and
so
if that means,
I mean, there's multiple people who are working towards that goal.
If that means then the second edition director is a person who, you know, is wanting to spend more time talking to Robin about, hey, here's what I'd love to see ambassadors doing. Please go out and disseminate this idea to the ambassadors. And then the second edition director also could talk to Nathan and be like, hey, here's the kind of thing that players have responded well to in the past about second edition as a card game. Let's make sure that the cards we're making reinforce those unique and attractive parts of our game. You know, since Nathan's in charge of designing new cards right now, he's the design director. As second edition director, your job is to coordinate all that stuff to make sure that people are doing things well and in a manner that they enjoy, because we don't want other volunteers to just get burnt out and totally upset with what their jobs are. But then make sure as second edition director, you are coordinating all these projects so that the game is thriving on all kinds of levels: player engagement, organized play, the good types of cards, handling bad cards, etc. And no, John, we're not figuring it out right now, but we're explaining it to Sandy and you guys right now.
No. I mean, this is
can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I think the disconnect in the dichotomy is that it's the continuing committee's organization as a whole's responsibility to, like, get more people engaged and get more people playing and do the outreach. So that happens through tournaments, through the Department of Organized Play. It happens through social media and engagement through the Department of Communications. It happens through maintaining the website and tournament kits and that stuff through operations. Director of 1E and Director of 2E handle those games in terms of maintaining the production and the quality of those games. So like, of course, the director of second edition is going to be working with the director of organized play and working with director of communications to give out information and receive back information. But then the person sitting in that chair, the person's job is to take that information and translate it into projects and promotions and internal processes that deliver the best game experience to players. You know, like they're the ones who deal with the game directly because that's their job. You know, figuring out what questions to ask to figure out what should be made and what shouldn't be made, and setting a vision for where the game should go based on feedback from players and potential players.
Right.
It's not. I don't see it as like it's the director of 2E's job to grow 2E. It's the director of 2E's job to maintain 2E and keep it in a healthy place. It's the organization's job to grow the games and bring people in. It's not. It doesn't fall under one specific person's role in my mind.
So I think
Okay.
I think what everyone's going to say is that the director of TUI is similar. You know, if you have a corporation that has an enterprise project management office, directors are basically a project manager. You know, they're facilitating the various components of their department. They're listening to all avenues of the game from the different facets, you know, from communications, organized play, and bringing that all together and, you know, putting it into these projects that can be delivered at the monthly meeting and give updates. And I think that's what a strong director, I would imagine, is Scott and his team is going to be looking for.
I see. So let me just make sure that I understand, if you guys don't mind me rephrasing that a little bit. The director of 2E is not in charge of design of 2E cards. Is that correct? That's Nathan?
Well,
The director of 2E is responsible for everything involving 2E. Like,
So
they are not
does that mean?
micromanaging. No, your question is vague.
Okay, no, I thought it was pretty. It was pretty clear. I thought, but maybe I'll rephrase it so that it's more concrete. Does the director of 2E design cards for 2E?
They get the final approval on all of the 2E projects, whether it be design, you know, ambassador stuff, etc.
So if the like, let me just walk through a hypothetical to make sure I understand. If there was a set that has been worked on for 6 months or however long the cycle is, and the director of 2E says, this set is bad, I don't want to release it, it doesn't fit my vision for the game, that is within their right to do?
Yeah.
Yes.
But that should never have gotten to that point.
Well, I mean, if there's a new director, they obviously aren't going to have visibility into all of the stuff that's currently in the pipeline at the granularity necessary to approve it. So I feel like by the long, like, I think based on statements that you said, that there's quite a bit of stuff in the pipeline that
For sure.
has that the new director
absolutely.
would have to approve.
And there are plenty of volunteers who have loved working on those cards. However, often during the card design process, you work on cards for a while and you really love them, but then playtest has a problem or there's a rules issue, and sadly your card has to get cut. Sometimes your whole project does have to get canceled. Sandy, you work in project designs. You know, sometimes the project does have to get canceled.
No, I get that. I'm just, and I'm not trying to be antagonistic. I'm looking for clarity so that when you have applicants for this process, and for those of us that maybe are not planning on applying but are interested in the community or if 2E, we want to see how the sausage is made to some extent. I think that level of transparency is very helpful to understand, like, kind of the direction that the community is moving, et cetera. So, like, when I ask about concrete roles, it's more like who is responsible for these things ultimately. And like, it's great to say that it's a group effort and like you guys have that like that gel, but it also means that somebody coming in new doesn't fully understand where they have control, where they have advisory roles, and where they have approval or ownership.
But what are you basing that on? You
I
haven't.
mean, just answering, like, I'm asking, like, what does the 2E director design cards? And the answer seems to be no, but they approve everything that goes out.
No,
Yeah, that's accurate.
The
Yeah, that's
director of
accurate.
second edition is in charge of second edition. So everything that happens is ultimately their responsibility, right? That's what the vote at the end of the year is, or whenever the end of the period of review is. Like every year, there's a vote of confidence. Does this person keep their job or not? And if the community thinks the person is doing a bad job, either because they're doing a bad job or the department is doing a bad job, that person gets voted out. So the answer to your question of who is responsible for everything in TUI is ultimately the director. It's the director's job. If there is a problem with design and design's not doing a good job, it's the director's responsibility to work with the design director or replace the design director at their discretion. To answer the exact question you asked, if whomever the new TUI director is comes in, could cancel every project in development, no matter where it is in the pipeline, if they wanted to. There are consequences to that. Not from us, from the board, but like, imagine a new boss that comes in, Sandy, and cancels all of your projects. You're going to have questions, and there might be consequences to those decisions. Like,
well, my new boss could fire me if that's the case.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, like, somebody could come in and say, I hate this set, I don't want to release it. That's their prerogative. And
right.
That's 100% their choice and their decision. But I would hope that whomever comes in would at least spend some time talking to people and looking at things and try to solve problems before taking drastic action.
No, totally. But what that means is, like, the end goal there then is whoever comes in, Interaction 2020 or whatever it's called, this block of cards, whatever comes out is the responsibility of the incoming TUI director, because it came out under their, like it's totally fair to ask them questions about the choices or the design or whatever, because they own it coming out. That's what I want to, yeah.
And if
For
that's
sure,
the case,
please do.
And if that's the case, like the new set coming out, and if a director is named, a month after this new set comes out, I would imagine that director is probably going to defer to Nathan and to the design team to help answer the questions with the set, because that new director is new and hasn't had time to disseminate the behind the scenes discussion.
Let's say William Riker becomes the director. I'm tired of saying that William Riker becomes the new TUI director in October. It would be kind of mean to hold them responsible for all their yesterdays, because they had literally nothing to do with it. Now, if there were questions about it, it would be on them to do the research and get the answers. But like saying this set wasn't good, why did you release it when it came out a month and a half before they got the job, seems a bit unfair.
No, I totally, yeah. But if it came out a month and a half after they got the job, then I think it is fair, because they would have had to.
And I agree with you. And if you're looking for examples in how this works, go talk to some Winnie people. Go look at the Winnie forums, because in the time that I have been director of Winnie, I get told when something isn't done the way people want it to be done, or when there is negative feedback. People are not shy about sharing it, and then we take that feedback and we talk about it. We address it. There's a reality that we do work ahead, and there is a period of time between when like we get actionable feedback and how soon we can change it. But like, we've made changes all the time based on feedback that we get from people,
Yeah.
And it is 100% possible to do the things that you're talking about at the director level.
And
you have to take my word on it or do the research, but like, in terms of Winnie, go ahead.
No, sorry. I mean, I don't question the fact that there's like a process. I'm trying to kind of tease apart. Let me maybe take a step back and explain why I'm asking these questions, and maybe that'll be a little bit clearer as to these like hypotheticals. The search process from Scott's, like, that Scott is leading, will add one person to run 2E. And there's already a mechanism for ambassadorship, design, et cetera. Like all of these things, like all these mechanisms already exist. They're already running. And this new person that comes in will just coordinate them. And Justin, thank you for your metaphor of like a project manager. So the question that I have for Scott and like about the 2E direction, et cetera, is how much is actually going to change if it needs to? Like if the new director is sufficiently passive, if Will Riker says, okay, things look good, I'm not going to touch anything, like let's just continue with this and move on, that's obviously fine, and I think that's happened in the past. But if it's more of an Eric Pressman who joins and who's like, I want to go to 4 duty rosters instead of 3 or whatever, like drastic changes, I'm wondering how much authority that person actually has when they don't directly, like, I don't think they can fire the design director. Is that, I actually don't know. Like, it seems
They
like their
100%
peers.
can. They 100%
Yes, they
can.
can.
Yeah,
So they're not peers. Okay.
If they're
No,
not peers,
the-
the design director reports to the second edition director.
I
So
see.
if we have Edward Jellicoe become second edition director, and he wants to
Yeah, Jellicoe, that's the one.
if he wants to do card design in a whole different way, he could just be like, thank you everybody for your service. Well, it's Jellicoe, he wouldn't say that. He could just be like, hit the bricks. Here's how we're doing card design from now on, or what have you. So yeah, Sandy, if you heard the earlier part of the call, even today we're talking about the bylaws and
that's
reformatting. So the idea is that directors are given a lot of leeway on how to set up their departments, because we don't want the rules and the existing structure to get in the way of players who care about this game being able to come on board and actually affect this game in a positive way. Does that answer your question?
It does. And that actually, my final question is then, Scott, as leader of this search committee, what are your feelings on the state of 2E right now? Does it need a Will Riker, everything is fine, or a Jellicoe type upheaval? Like, what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your perspective.
So I don't think we need to tear it all down in order to rebuild it, but I think there's several areas, and I believe everybody on this call today would agree, there are areas that need repair, maintenance, and then innovation. All right, we need to make some changes so that situations like we've all lived through don't happen again. If they happen again too frequently, if they happen again at all, we might not have a game or a 2E to be talking about, right? So yeah, we are looking for somebody who is, not necessarily wanting to come and be a complete and total revolutionary that destroys everything and starts from the ground up, because there's too much hard work that's already been done over the years. But there is also too much stuff that has been done badly in recent years that needs to be repaired, maintained, and then innovated to where it is, good and positive for the game. We would all be lying to ourselves if we said that this organization, this organism, this starship isn't going to have scars and battle damage on it from what has happened. Gosh, in the very recent time, we all know that the good ship USS Second Edition has taken lots of battle damage, right? But if you get a good commander, a good director of Second Edition, they can take what they have been given and not only keep it from dying, but they can make that ship be something that has a sterling service record, right? And in my opinion, we give them those tools, but then they bring to us the raw material, the proto matter, to make it something probably even better than what the rest of us are envisioning. And if anybody wants to to find out more about what I like in Second Edition and what I want to see a director of Second Edition do, again, these are my opinions. They're not metrics or requirements, just my viewpoint. You can find a big, long discussion with me about what Second Edition is about to be and what I love on this very YouTube channel, because I applied for the job of Second Edition director. I'm not sure if you were around at that time, Sandy, but back in the day, I asked for the chance to be in charge of that ship. And ultimately, the committee chose someone else. That's fine. I respect their decisions. But clearly, I have ideas about what should be done to help the game grow and prosper. I don't want to get too much in the way of aphorisms, but yeah.
That was about 5 months ago, I guess.
I think
that
that's
was right when I
5 or 6
started,
months
yeah.
ago. So I have a
Yeah.
question for you before we're done, Sandy, because you said that was your last question. We've talked a lot today, and you and I have talked on other Zoom calls and on the dojo and lots of other places about growing the game, bringing in people, and card games in general. And you used to be an excellent player at second edition. My congratulations to your success. What is it that made you decide to come back to Star Trek now? And by the way, I'm so glad you're back. But what made you decide to come back and get involved at this point in time?
So-
and how can we replicate that to get more people to return?
Well, I have some thoughts on that, but first let me correct you. I don't think I was ever an excellent Star Trek player. I was
Come on, man.
I was at best mediocre, but that's fine. I think that the reason that I came back, so I stopped playing right around when I actually switched to a different card game when Decipher stopped making cards. And that, I think that's like a fairly common, I was like, okay, well, I need to buy a starter set for some other card game. And I played Game of Thrones for the last like 9 years. So I think the thing that brought me back, I was talking with Rob Corbett, who is a friend of mine, who I played with in college. And he messaged me and he's like, hey, remember John Corbett from Jersey? He's running a tournament in Dallas. You want to go play? And I'm like, I haven't played in forever, but like Game of Thrones is now a dead game since Fantasy Flight is no longer supporting it. So like, I'm not like, I don't have a card game in my life right now. Let me come back to it. So I got on the website. I saw that apparently somebody had decided to print like actually good Jem'Hadar for the Dominion. So I put together, or I had Ben Haas put together a deck for me that was like similar to the ones I used to play. We went to Texas and played Star Trek for like 3 days. I even played a 1E game. So like, and I think that the rules are like similar enough. There's a lot more cards. It was non-trivial to build a deck from scratch. But like I was able to like kind of take missions that I remember, cards that I remember, and then like supplement them through the search tool or whatever. I felt that Lackey was like kind of annoying to set up, and I didn't follow through to practice online. So I kind of went into it cold. I think that to replicate that, one, I keep in touch with some of the old players from back in the day, but not a lot. And I think all of them that I keep in touch with play now for the most part, like still play or play again. I think that having like events is honestly the best way to bring people in. We don't have a presence in game stores, like I think somebody mentioned. You can't, I mean, maybe the ambassadors can start like having like Thursday Night Trek in game stores with a local play group or something. But honestly, just playing the game is what brings people back. You can release like new cards or exciting things, but like that keeps people playing. It's a hygiene factor. It's not a motivating factor. Motivating factors are the chance to like kind of, the game is fun to play. I don't think it would be around for this long if it wasn't fun to play. How do you get people to the fun part as quickly as possible? In my case, I had Ben Haas build me a deck and John run a tournament. So I was able to get to playing games with something like that's reasonably good that I understood very fast. I know there are starter decks out there. I plan on introducing my Game of Thrones friends to the game that way through starter decks at events. The lack of travel and the lack of kind of in-person events is not great for that. But I think building an online platform, which is something that is my current side project, is probably pretty good. But I like no one. I mean, I've known Brian forever, and like he talks about Trek occasionally, but like there was never incentive for him to get me to play again, right? And I think a lot of times that's really on us. Like I really think that John proactively reaching out to Rob and me to get us to actually show up to an event was great. I think Robin actually invited me to an event in Brooklyn after that, which I wasn't able to attend because I was right after the shutdown or right during the shutdown. But like, that's the only way to get players. There's no, there's a lot of Star Trek fans and there's a lot of CCG fans, but without somebody opening the door for them, there's there's no way.
Yeah,
Sorry,
great
that was
stuff.
a little long-winded, but that's
Not at all.
yeah.
Not at all. Great stuff. I love to hear that. First of all, that you said that Robin reached out to you. Kudos to Robin whenever he sees this, or anybody who wants to tell him, great job. And I love hearing you phrase it as getting new players to come, getting returning players. You said that's on us. And I love that sense of camaraderie that is on us, all of us as members of the group that plays games with the Continuing Committee, the group that plays Star Trek games. It's on us to reach out to other people. You're absolutely right.
So, yeah, as a mediocre player, I don't want to lose to Brian and MVB over and over again. When I play the second edition. I need new players to lose to.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's get an online game sometime soon, brother. I'm really glad that you're back, and I love your idea about the platform to play the game online. I think that's spectacular. Maggie's how to play videos on Lackey help a lot, but even as she said, getting it set up is sometimes a bit of a hurdle. So yeah,
and I have a channel on the dojo for updates for my online platform with like kind of weekly updates. I think August 15th, I plan on releasing it to for comments, I guess, or for like the initial contribution period. So yeah, we're plugging along.
outstanding.
Thanks, Sandy, for coming
Yep.
on.
Thanks for listening to me and letting me complain.
Yeah, I say, losing to Mike all the time, it's great, but then when you actually do beat MVB, it's all the more better because, you have to bring your A game every single time. And, Chris, on the 1E side, Chris could attest, we had probably one of the most brutal, tough 1E games at Continentals a couple of years back.
I was just going to say, like, Sandy, if you want to have beers over commiserating on who you lose to, I got 4 world champions. I get to play at every local tournament of 2E ever. So there's that. That's real fun. Mike, Freed, Kevin twice, Caleb twice. Well, that's really fun. I'll just finish in 6th and feel like I'm good at the game.
Yeah, I mean, the local legend problem is real, right? Like if what is a new player coming into your play group going to be like? You're in Minnesota?
Yeah, 2E. I mean, that's brutal. I actually did not teach my wife. I told her I'm not going to teach you how to play this game. She's like, why? I go, because you're too competitive and you're not going to last in this play group. She's like, what do you mean? Kevin Yeager taught her how to play.
Hey guys, can I move to end this meeting? Sorry to cut you all off.
Oh yeah, you're probably right.
After the Zoom meeting, but can we move to end the meeting? I would like to. My children would like a rest stop, and we'd all like some lunch.
I kind of need one of those rest stops too. So
yeah.
All right, guys. Second to end the meeting.
Yeah, I'll second, I guess. Third,
All right,
fourth,
Scott. All right. Any objections to ending the meeting? Sandy, you don't get the votes.
Well, I'll have my own meeting with beers and coding. I will actually. I mean, I literally will do that after this if people want to join.
All right. No objections to
Well,
ending
if you're
the
going to
meeting?
get me to code, I need beers. So yeah.
Me too. I don't code sober. Are you kidding?
Yeah, we'll consider this done because no one objected to end of the meeting.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Oh.
Yeah, I need to stop it from going live, don't I?